So when most people get into prepping, they start focusing on these fantasies about the end of the world and building a bug-out bag, etc. But the truth is, these scenarios come around maybe once every couple hundred years, if that. And they should actually be one of the last things that you're prepping for, not one of the first. But you know what scenario does play out in communities around the country? It's blackouts. Sometimes for a few hours, sometimes for a few days, and sometimes even longer than that. Personally, I lose power 2 to 3 times a year. And in my opinion, this is where people should start prepping. The very first thing that you should build is a blackout bag. So a blackout bag is just a bag or even a box or some sort of container that has all the necessary tools that you're gonna need in the case of a power outage. This way your family's not scrambling around looking in the junk drawer and the cabinets in your toolbox to get all the tools that they need. So one of the first items you're gonna need is obviously some sort of light source. There's actually a couple different directions that you can go with this. Now a lot of people's instincts may be to just go and buy some candles, and you can absolutely go that route. You can buy some emergency candles like this, which last several hours, or even just some simple tea lights that you get at the dollar store. But either way, just make sure that you're also buying some candle stands for them, as well as some waterproof matches or some big lighters that go along with them. Now personally, I've actually been moving in a different direction the last couple of years ever since I had kids. I'm personally not a big fan of having 10 lit candles around my house and a house full of bored children. I've actually been focusing on other sources of lights like flashlights that don't have that same risk that come along with having multiple open flames around your home. Now flashlights can really be broken up into 2 categories. You have directional lights and you have omnidirectional lights. So directional lights can be that large standard flashlight that you buy at Home Depot or the dollar store, or even the smaller compact LED flashlights that you can buy in bulk, or even a headlamp like this, which is actually really useful. All of these will work, and I do recommend that you have at least one directional flashlight in your blackout bag. Just make sure that you do have extra batteries for any light sources that you are using. But personally, I'm a bigger fan of omnidirectional lights that shine light in all directions for blackouts, because they can light up an entire room and they free up your hands for other activities. So for me, one of the first items I go to in my blackout bag is actually one of these emergency glow sticks, which lasts for up to 12 hours and they illuminate an entire room. What I like about these is that it's safe to use around children, and they're actually pretty inexpensive if you buy in bulk. These actually go great in your car emergency kit as well. Now you can also invest in different types of battery powered lanterns as well, and I do recommend that you invest in at least one large one for you and your family to use. One large lantern like this is enough to illuminate an entire room and for all your family to have enough light to read books or do other activities. You can also buy some of these smaller lanterns as well, maybe one for each family member, so they can take this with them and use this in the kitchen to prepare food or to use the bathroom. You really want to focus on these omnidirectional lights like this when building your blackout bag, and again, just make sure that you have enough extra batteries for all of your flashlights. So the next item I really recommend is some sort of emergency radio. If you are going without power, having access to the critical weather and news updates is going to be vital. And this is especially the case for things like tornadoes or hurricanes, flash floods, or blizzards. And what I love about these emergency radios is that most of them come with emergency flashlights as well. If you are going without power for several days, being able to listen to music as well can also be a huge morale booster for you and your family. Now this particular one actually has 2 different battery types. It takes AA batteries, which you can easily replace. It also has a rechargeable battery built into it as well, which you charge using these solar panels up top, or you can even use the crank on the side to manually charge that rechargeable battery. So even in the worst case scenario, you will still have access to a light source as well as a radio. Now on this one, you can also charge that rechargeable battery using a USB port as well. So if you wanted to go out to your car in order to charge your emergency radio, you can do that. And what I really love about this one is that you can charge devices off of this emergency radio as well. So you could use these solar panels or the hand crank to charge this battery, and then use that battery to charge your cell phone if you really need to make an emergency phone call. So because of all these different functions and the ability to charge your cell phone in kind of the worst case scenario, having an emergency radio like this in your blackout bag is definitely going to be one of your top priorities. I don't have links in the description below to a couple emergency radios that I recommend. Now the next item you should look at is really based on your climate that you live in, but I'm a big fan of having some hand warmers or some pocket warmers in your blackout bag as well. If you did lose power in the middle of winter, your house is going to get really cold really quickly, especially at nighttime. And this is why I recommend you have at least one hand warmer for every person in your home, and these will provide them with some individual heat for up to 24 hours. And you may even want to consider just buying an entire box of these just to store for worst case scenario. Next, I'd really recommend including a deck of cards or some books or even some board games. It's something to keep you and your family occupied when you don't have any electricity. This is going to help pass the time, but it's also going to help keep your family occupied so they don't make any silly mistakes. So now that you have your basic necessities, get through maybe the first 24 hours without power, now you want to look at what happens if you're going 3-4 days without power. And this is where you start looking at the longer term sustainable items. And at this point, I really recommend you invest in some solar charged flashlights. This one here is a directional light by Hybrid Light and actually has 2 different batteries in there. It has replaceable batteries built into the butt of it, but it also has a rechargeable battery that gets recharged using these solar panels built into the side. So in the daytime, you leave this out to charge, and then in the evening time, you bring it in and you actually start using it. So another option would be something like this from Luminate. This is an inflatable LED solar powered lantern. So all it is a couple LED lights in there, but having this inflatable body helps disperse that light around, and something like this can really illuminate an entire room. And what I like about these is how compact they get when you store them away. Because they are inflatable, they don't take up much size when you deflate them. And again, you just leave this out or leave it in a window to charge during the daytime, and then at nighttime you bring it in and you start using this. And you may even want to consider buying one of these for each member of your family. Now in the first 24 hours, you probably have enough food and snacks around your house for you to get by. But if you're looking at multiple days without power and you can't use your electric stove or your microwave, and all the food in your refrigerator is starting to go bad, now you want to look at some alternative sources for cooking food. That's why I really recommend investing in some propane camping stoves like this, and make sure you get a couple of these extra canisters as well. Something as simple as this would be enough for you to at least boil some water to sterilize it, or cook some soup or some pasta or even some freeze-dried food. Just remember to also pack some waterproof matches or some Bic lighters to use with it as well. Now to go along with that, you may also want to have some freeze-dried meals or some cans of soup or even some ramen noodles, something really quick and easy that you can cook using that propane burner. Now if you're relying on a well and a well pump to provide water to your home, then you probably won't have access to running water during a power outage. So you also really want to buy some 1-gallon jugs of water. Now the CDC recommends that you have 1 gallon per person per day for up to 3 days stored in your home. And this water is not just for drinking, but also for cooking food as well as sanitation. Now you don't need to keep water like this actually in your blackout bag, but I do highly recommend that you at least keep it somewhere in your home, enough water for your entire family for 3 days. Hey, if you want to learn what the 11 items are that FEMA wants all Americans to keep in their homes at all times, click right here to check out my other video. Don't forget to subscribe for more prepping and survival information, and hit that bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys over in the next video.